Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. This is episode 29, live with Umar Faruqi, and this one is for how to build your personal brand. And as you already know, we have a special guest with us, Allah Taha, all the way from New York. But before we start, I'll give you 2-3 minutes to join in because people must be getting reminders right now to join. Before that, I'll just tell you why I've chosen this topic, personal branding. First, you guys requested it, and secondly, for me, personal branding has worked a lot since 2014 or 2013. I've been working on it and I've been advocating it. But again, I needed an expert to talk to you guys about this. For me, personal branding is really important because it's easier for recruiters to tap you. It's you get to be well known for your craft. You have a great networking circle. You connect with like-minded people. You create a social life, and you open avenues for yourself other than jobs. Become an influencer as well. So for me, this is really important. This is one of the 6, 7 things that I mentioned are very important to get a great job wherever you are in the world, especially in Pakistan. So the format is simple. We'll keep it 40 to 45 minutes. And you guys can write your questions over here. We'll take questions 10 to 15 minutes at the end. And if Hala wants, she can take questions from here as well. And whatever questions you have pertaining to self branding and whatever issues you're facing, you can mention it over here. Don't be worried about, okay, if I write this, what is Hala going to think, or what are the people going to think? It doesn't work like that. We're here to help you, and we're here to have a good show. Okay, so I'll introduce my guest, and yeah, I'll be picking up 2 viewers from here who have interesting questions, who have very pertinent questions, and I'll counsel them for free by the end after the show on personal brand. So who's Hala? Hala started her career in radio production at WQH2 Hot 97 on the Angie Martinez show. Later, she focused on entrepreneurial endeavor. She launched an entertainment news blog site, The Sorority of Hip Hop. She led an all-female team of 50 bloggers, and together they ran a popular site, interviewed celebrities, produced radio shows, and hosted parties and concerts. When the blog site boom slowed down in 2014, Hala took a temporary exit from the entertainment industry to get an MBA. And she now currently has over 8 years of corporate marketing experience and is quickly rising up the ranks. Young and Profiting podcast merges Hala's passions for radio, entrepreneurship, business, and continued learning. Hala is an expert on networking, rising from failure, personal branding, LinkedIn, and podcasting. So here I welcome Hala. Hi Hala, how are you?
Hi, happy to be here, Umar.
I'm so happy and excited for you to be here, and so are the people. I'm sure you can see the comments.
Let me switch to that. Oh, cool. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much, and I hope everything is fine over there. Is there a lockdown happening? Is there a
Yeah,
lockdown still there?
yes, we are in lockdown. So, just in New York City right now. So, in the thick of things, things are starting to open back up, but I'm trying to be extra careful. So, still on lockdown.
All right, great. I hope you are safe over there and
Yeah.
keep doing your wonderful content. And for people, I think a lot of you they're watching me for the first time, so I hope you follow Hala in the future as well. She does amazing content. I've been following her for a while. So Hala, building a
Yes.
personal brand. But I want to start with I have given an introduction, but I still want to start Hala and personal branding. How do you see that? Like, what is your experience in that? You just
Sure.
want to know.
Like you mentioned, I have a podcast. I'm the host of Young and Profiting Podcast. We help people benefit both financially and professionally by uncovering a new topic each week. And so that's my side hustle. Full time, I work at Disney Streaming Services. And so, as far as my personal journey when it comes to personal branding, I basically started my LinkedIn brand about 2 years ago, and now I almost have 50,000 followers. I'm one of the most popular podcasters on that platform. And so, I really learned how to quickly scale a personal brand. And prior to that, I had a personal brand on Twitter when I owned my own entertainment news website, and I was pretty popular on there. And so, I know like how to create a personal brand kind of from scratch. And I also know the importance of a personal brand. And I would say my expertise is really LinkedIn right now. So I'm definitely happy to answer any questions about LinkedIn specifically.
Great, that's progress. Like I really want to know how you scaled up to 50,000 followers, almost 50,000 followers on LinkedIn, and we'll get to know about it. So, what is self branding for you, if I may ask? Because a lot of people they confuse. So when I talk about self-branding, they think, okay, you have to give a great speech, or whenever you meet people, you have an aura. But I'm talking about in terms of the uh, virtual personality that people have. So, what is self-branding for you?
Yeah. So it's really the act of marketing yourself instead of marketing a product. So that's really the definition of self branding. It's about becoming an expert that people trust. It's about building credibility so you become an expert in whatever you want to focus on, and it's all about basically building a community around you and having a community that trusts you and that could eventually, buy from you down the line. So that's what personal branding is all about. It's about marketing yourself instead of a product.
Okay, so when you talk about having like-minded people around, so a lot of times the issue that people have is that okay, we post great content and we don't have like-minded people around us. People don't follow us, or we don't get to have that following that, for example, you have. So this is basic question that people have. We are not able to do it. So is there a problem with the content? Is there a problem with how they're portraying themselves, or
So
what
is
do
your
you think
question?
about it?
Sorry, I had to fix my audio because I was hearing myself twice.
No problem.
What is your question exactly? Say
Yeah,
that
so
again.
what I'm trying to say is you mentioned that you have to have like-minded people around and you have to make a community, and that's what branding is, right?
Yeah.
So the issue people have is when this starts. For example, if I make a LinkedIn account right now and I start putting up content, trying to network with people, but I'm not getting the response, and then people they get demotivated and they're like, okay, we've been trying for like 5 6 months and this is not for us,
Yeah.
and yeah. So what do you think? What is the issue over
it's
there?
it's all about the community that you build. So especially on LinkedIn, the way that it works is that you need to proactively build a following that's actually interested in your content. And that means that you have to go out and find those people. Those people aren't going to find you. You can use hashtags and things so that you might become more relevant and people might find you in their searches. But in general, you need to be totally proactive in growing your following. So, what does that mean? And I'll give myself as an example. I'm a self improvement podcast. The biggest self improvement podcaster in the world is Gary Vaynerchuk. So, what did I do when I first started on LinkedIn? I went on Gary Vaynerchuk's profile, and anybody who liked or commented on his posts, I sent them an invite and I said, "Hey, my name is Hala. I noticed you like Gary Vee's content. I have a podcast too. I think you'll like my stuff as well. Hoping to connect." They would accept my friend request, and then I'd follow up and give them more information about my podcast. And I grew my subscribers one by one doing that. And then, as a double benefit, anytime I'd post on his profile, I would be the number one comment. And I'd get 100 likes on his stuff, and then more people would see me and more people would follow me. And so I kept getting very specific about the type of people that I wanted to be my followers. I didn't just want everybody to be my followers. I wanted people who followed Gary Vee, who followed Tony Robbins, who followed other self improvement podcasters, and not only followed them, but also engaged on their content. Because the last thing that you want is, dead connections on LinkedIn. A lot of people,
Yeah.
they go on LinkedIn just to find a job and then they never come on again. So before you actually accept a friend request, because you only have a limited amount of friend requests, I think it's like 40,000 or something. Before you accept, you want to make sure that they actually comment and engage, because if they don't comment and engage on your posts, they're just a dead connection and they're going to hurt you rather than help you. So that's my advice in terms of, if you're not seeing traction, it's because you actually don't have the right followers. And if you don't have the right followers, nobody's going to like your content and you're going to keep getting discouraged. I have so many tips about this, so I don't know if you want to jump right into LinkedIn tips, but it's also about the
We'll,
type
we'll,
of content that you post.
we'll jump on to it by the end. So again, and I keep telling people, okay, this is self-branding is important because of recruitment, because of jobs. But why do you think self-branding is so important, especially on LinkedIn? If we talk about LinkedIn, we talked about what self-branding is, how you can get there very briefly, and you can. But why is it
Yeah,
so
so
important?
it's so
People are like,
important.
okay, people are like, without LinkedIn, without this, our life is going fine. We are doing fine. So why is this so important?
Well, it's really up to your personal goals, but if you want to be more competitive in the job market, that's why it's so important. When you're trying to get a job right now, what's the first thing people do? They Google your name, they see where you're out there. And whether you like it or not, you have a personal brand. So, like, let's just say that right there. It's either you're not present on social media, so you have no presence, or you have some presence, and that's your personal brand. And so, it's if you want to control it or not. That's really the question, not whether to have one or not. Because even if you're not trying, you have one. It just might be really bad, right? So it's all about becoming more competitive in the job market, getting opportunities, because at the end of the day, a personal brand is really the community around you. It's the community of people who trust you and who value your work. So that's just going to open up more job opportunities. It's the network that you have that can bring you more job opportunities down the line. And it's also becoming more valuable. If you work for a corporation, you're all of a sudden looked at as a more valuable employee because you're bringing brand awareness not only to yourself but to your company, as a company that supports such an expert in the field, right? Or hired such a great expert. So you also become more valuable in your company. And it's the gig economy right now. It's all about having multiple income streams. And so having a personal brand allows you to have those opportunities to get those allows you to have a network that can open up different opportunities to have multiple income streams. So I would say it's just all about becoming more competitive, and it's just up to you in terms of your goals. And if you want to become more of a competitive worker in the marketplace, then you would want to start with your personal brand.
And what do you have to say to people who are not interested in this branding themselves actively on LinkedIn? Do you think that it's not their personal goal, so it's fine? Or would you say no, they have to reconsider the thing?
I mean, it's some people are happy with a mediocre life. If you want to be mediocre and have a mediocre job and be looked at as a mediocre expert, that's up to you. If you want to be an expert,
We got the message, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so the most important question, and then people ask, and I'm sure they're commenting right now as well on this. How do you make a self brand on LinkedIn? How do you make a great brand of yourself on LinkedIn? How do you make recruiters see you? How do you make people see you as a brand?
Okay.
Yeah. So what do you think?
So I would say first you need to come up with your personal branding statement. So that's you want to think about who is your audience, what's the value you want to give to those audience, and why people should follow you. So I think those are the three things that you need to consider. You might want to write this down. So think about your personal statement, your personal branding statement, 2 to 3 sentences, right? So again, who your audience will be, the value you want to give to that audience, and why people should follow you. That's also called your unique selling point. So you really want to be focused with your personal brand. You don't want to be everything to everyone. You want to think about who your target audience is. So for me, I am targeting millennials who are interested in self-improvement, and anything I talk about either helps them financially or professionally. That's it. I don't talk about fashion. I don't talk about music. I don't interview, hip hop stars. Like, that's not what I do. I interview business people, entrepreneurs, and I help my millennial audience grow financially and professionally. That's all I do. And that's all my posts have something to do with that. And I never post about anything that has nothing to do with that, right? So I would say figure out your personal branding statement. And then in terms of LinkedIn itself, there's like lots of different strategies you can take. So do you want me to just go right into LinkedIn strategies, or do you have any other follow-up questions to that?
No. So if you
Okay, so let's start off with posting. And feel free, if you guys have questions, just go ahead, ask them in the chat. When it comes to LinkedIn, I'm like, I would say like a dictionary. So
people have questions right now. If you feel that you want to take any questions,
Sure.
you can. Otherwise, we'll go in the end. So that's
yeah. So somebody asked, what platforms can we use for personal branding other than LinkedIn? Any platform, any social media platform is fair game. It doesn't matter. I'm just an expert on LinkedIn, and I believe that LinkedIn has the best organic reach for professionals right now. So if you're trying to start a professional personal brand, definitely LinkedIn. If you're something that's more visual, if you're an artist, I would say Instagram. So anything that's visual, whether that's real estate, whether that's, you're a painter, whatever it is, I would say Instagram. But most people, I think, right now fit on LinkedIn. So that's why I keep talking about LinkedIn. Okay, so let's start with posting. There's lots of different topics we can go into in terms of posting. So first of all, like I said, you want to know your personal branding statement. You want to know what kind of stuff you're going to post about. And then you need to think about frequency. So I would say 3 to 4 times a week on LinkedIn is all that you need. You don't need to post multiple times a day. Once you start to, get really comfortable, you can scale that up to like once per day. I would say overdoing it actually isn't a good thing. So I would do 3 to 4 times a week. But the key is to be consistent. because if you stop posting, first of all, the algorithm will deprioritize your content because they'll recognize that you haven't posted in a while, and also people will forget about you. So you want to always maintain relevancy. So that's why you want to think about posting 3 to 4 times a week. The other thing is think about there's multiple different content types on LinkedIn. You can do text only, you can do images, you could do videos, you could do audiograms. There's a million things you can do, but what are you good at? Are you good at writing? Then focus on text posts. Are you great on camera? Then focus on video posts. Just do what you're good at. Do what feels comfortable and natural to you. That's what I would recommend in terms of your content. And a lot of people try to like downplay text posts. You actually don't need like fancy graphic design skills or video editing skills. Text posts do great on LinkedIn because it kind of breaks up the sea of, sharing articles and things like that on LinkedIn, and they actually do really well. So I would focus on text posts, and very short text posts do well on LinkedIn. And then in terms of like, while we're on the topic of text, you definitely don't want to write in big paragraphs. You want to write in small sentences because most people are digesting your content on mobile. And so as they're scrolling through, people don't want to read big chunky paragraphs. So you want to make sure that you're breaking your stuff down line by line. And you'll notice a lot of the popular influencers, it's called broetry. That's what that style is called. And that's basically like line by line content. And then the last thing I'll say about text is the first 3 lines are the most important, and the first line especially. So I would catch them with a hook. So something controversial, for example, college education is a scam. Like start off with something like somebody's gonna fight you about, and then go into the post, or like just something that's going to catch their attention. The first line is the most important line, I would say, and then everything else is secondary. And then another thing to consider when creating content is when you're writing a post, always think about like, how can people respond to this post? What would be like the typical comments that I might get on this post? So asking a question at the end is always good to get people to engage. Even asking them to agree or disagree can get them to start to comment. So your goal when posting is to actually get people to start engaging, liking and commenting. So if you post something and there's nothing to agree with or disagree with, it's just like a fact, no one's going to say anything. They might like it, but then they're going to move on because they have nothing to say. So you always want to think about like, how are people going to engage with this content? Would I post on this post if I saw it? So if the answer is no, I have like, what is anybody going to say? Then you don't want to post it because it's actually going to be like poor engagement. Let's see if we have any questions.
I have a question, Will.
Yeah.
So you have a question? You have a question, seen with it?
No, I don't really see anything that's like relevant to what we're talking
So if some people say that if you get a lot of comments, then your post gets more reach.
Yes.
And if you get a lot of likes, so is that true for people? So for example, if I get to engage people, then obviously when people comment, so it's how does that work? Is the algorithm like that?
Yeah, so basically it really matters the first, I would say, like 30 to 1 hour that you post your post. You want to try to get the most engagement possible because the way that LinkedIn's algorithm works is it matches it it's what's relevant to you, and what you're most likely to engage with is what comes up on your feed. So if somebody comments on your post in the past, it's more likely to come up on their feed in the future. So that's another reason why you want to get people to comment, because that means that next time you post, it's going to come up on their feed. So that's why it's really important to put up engaging content.
That's a very important point.
Yeah. And so in terms of getting comments right away, there's lots of strategies you can take. A lot of influencers, they're in engagement pods. And basically what that is, it's taking social media off the social media site and starting a chat with your friends. So let's say everybody who's watching this right now, why don't you guys start a WhatsApp group? And every time you guys post, share a link and like each other's content right away. And then you guys are going to boost each other up and help each other. So comments is like everything on LinkedIn. And so I would say there's many different approaches to commenting. First of all, you want to comment on other people's stuff. You don't want to just only look at your content. You want to find other people that have followers that you want and comment on their posts, whether they're celebrities or whether they're normal people. And because LinkedIn, like 40% of your feed is basically who's commenting on whose posts. So that's a great way to get second and third connections, is by actually getting other people to comment on your stuff, and then people will see your content in their feed even if they're not first connections with you. So you want to basically comment on other people's posts so they reciprocate and comment on yours, and so that you can get more visibility to second and third connections. So that's very important. The other thing to keep in mind is when people are commenting on your post, you always want to comment back. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm not going to comment back. But you actually want to grow a relationship with your following. So you want to treat them like real people. You want to respect the fact that they took time to comment on your post. So comment back to them, have a conversation with them, DM them, let them know how they're get to know them as a person. Like, try to actually get to know your community and be authentic and real with them. And then you'll build those strong connections where people will always engage in your content, even if they might not like it. They just support you, right? And so they just want to support you. And that's the kind of community that you want to build.
Great. And one more thing, that's a lot of information. I'm glad I'm recording it so I can watch this later as well. And same goes to the people. I hope you guys are noting it down. So there's a lot of debate on what type of content people are supposed to. So on my LinkedIn, so for example, I have around 40,000 connections, and people post very, very personal, and some people post religious stuff as well. And I'm not really for religious stuff. I think religion should be kept aside when you're, especially on LinkedIn, when it's a professional network. Especially some stuff that you probably would post on Facebook. But then people start debating that it's our choice. There's no rule as such that you can't post personal stuff on LinkedIn. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I agree with the people that say there's no rules. Like, there's no rules. There's no rules to LinkedIn. You can post whatever you want. If it's authentic to you, if it's what you believe in, if it's what you want to be associated with as a brand, then go ahead. There's no rules on LinkedIn. Sometimes I post funny videos because one of my tenets, and I told you, I want people to grow financially and professionally, but I also like to inspire people. So that's kind of like a third tenet. And I like to make people feel good, make people feel motivated, make people feel happy. And right now I feel like people need to have more fun. So I posted this funny video about like a prank on LinkedIn yesterday. And some people were like, oh, I'm unfollowing you because this shouldn't be on LinkedIn. This is a joke. And I don't care if I lose those followers, because to me, like, I'm trying to uplift people. I'm trying to have some fun. And, if you don't like it, then that's not the right follower for me. And I feel the same way. Like, if you want to post about religion, I don't necessarily think LinkedIn is the best place for that. I think there's better places where you can find your target audience. But if you found your target audience on there and that's where you want to talk about it, it's your platform, it's your brand, it's your future, So I would say I don't think it's the smartest thing to do to post about religion or controversial things, but people are starting to post politics on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not this job site anymore. LinkedIn is a social media site now. And I think the people who actually take advantage of the fact that LinkedIn is a social media site and not just a job site now are the ones that are doing great. I remember when people started posting on LinkedIn just regular content, a selfie video of myself giving some motivational speech. That was controversial in the beginning. People were like, this should be on Facebook. This is not LinkedIn. And look, now that's the norm. So I think LinkedIn is going to keep evolving in that regard.
All right. Thanks for clearing that out. Okay, so we discussed how can one make a self-brand on LinkedIn. So if I may ask you, okay, once we started this approach and we're using LinkedIn, what steps will you tell people for their brand to stand out? Like, if you have certain steps to say, okay, follow this, and you can't guarantee, but I can ensure that you'll have more chances of success. So steps to make a brand stand out.
Okay, so first of all, I already mentioned one big part of it. So you actually want to proactively get a following that is interested in your content. If you don't have that, nothing works. No matter how good your content is, no matter how good your videos are, no matter how much money you've invested in your content, nothing matters if you have no following. So you have to, in the beginning, I don't do this anymore, but in the beginning, I would proactively invite people who I thought could like my content. That's like number one. In tandem with starting to post content, because if you get somebody to follow you and then you don't post anything, then that's pointless, right? So the second thing is to try to stand out in the feed. What you don't want to do is look like everybody else. And so you don't want to just like share other people's content. You want to have original content. Sharing content actually is the worst strategy. If you guys have noticed, anytime you've shared something on LinkedIn, how many likes do you really get? 4 likes, maybe if you're lucky, because that is deprioritized. You never want to just share someone's content. You want to actually repurpose that content if you're going to reuse it. You want to download the video, download the image, and repost it. And then you'll have a lot more traction. You got to give credit to whoever created it, but you want to actually repost it and not just share it. And then the other thing is, like, for me, I don't know if you guys have been on my LinkedIn page, but I have a very bright brand, and I purposely did that because I wanted to stand out on LinkedIn. Everybody on LinkedIn is very kind of like mute with their color tones. They're not very vibrant. I have cartoons on my images, very bright colors, big bright patterns, and for me, I stand out in the feed because I'm bright and things like that. The other way that you can stand out on LinkedIn is by doing like selfie videos. A lot of these big brands, they pay very expensive costs to produce these elaborate videos, and they actually don't perform that well. My best videos were ones that I took in 5 minutes and selfie video, and I got 1,000 likes on them, And so I would say people love videos where you can see a human face, especially on LinkedIn, where it's not like that. Not everybody is posting a selfie video like on Instagram or, Snapchat. It's not the same. So that video human connection really helps you stand out as well. So I would say, think about your brand. As far as your colors, your fonts, like make it a consistent brand as far as your content goes. But I would say videos with a human element always do well, and actually posting original content is key. And then, like I mentioned before, having a following that's interested in your content so that you can keep building a community. You have to start from somewhere. And so getting that proactive following gives you a head start.
Thank you. And coming back to that point, building a community. So I know you made a lot of effort, like you mentioned, that you used to go and comment and get to know people. So that's how you built your community. Is it a good idea for people to randomly add people on LinkedIn and start a conversation from there? Because some people are like, oh, I don't want to make that person awkward, or I just don't want to start send a request and that make that person awkward, and I don't want that behavior from my
so
side.
I don't
What
think
do you think?
being random is going to work. I think it's targeting people specifically. So whether you go into search and, like, let's say you're a real estate agent and you want to connect with other real estate agents because you want to position yourself as an expert in that field, I would go to LinkedIn and do a search for real estate agent and then invite those people with a nice message about why they should follow you. Like, hey, what's up? I'm, John, and I'm an expert in the real estate field. I think I could provide great value to your feed. Looking forward to connect, right? Then you start there, and then, once they accept, you send another message driving them to whatever website or whatever you want to point them to, or even to one of your latest posts to try to gain traction that way. So I would say it's all about targeting the people that you want to follow. Targeting the people that you want in your network. So people that not only like what you do and might find value in what you do based on their industry or based on the previous content they've liked, but also people who actually engage and comment and like on LinkedIn and spend time on the platform. So those are the two facets that you should look for when growing a following. And so definitely don't be random, because then again, you're going to have a bunch of people who don't care about your stuff, and you're going to be penalized for that. I see a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever seen profiles like this. They have 600,000 followers. They get 10 likes on their posts. There's something wrong there. They look terrible. They either look
What
like
is wrong there?
they've bought their followers, most likely. It's probably bots, fake followers. Or they just, maybe they had like some big PR push. They put out a book or whatever, and they got a lot of people following them, and then they never posted. And so they never grew a community. And because people never liked their content actually, even though so many people are following them, their content actually never gets into their followers' feeds. And so your goal is to always be in your followers' feed. If you think that they're never going to like your content, then you're never going to be in their feed, and then you're just going to have all these empty followers and nothing to show for it.
Right. Thank you so much. I'll just go to the questions now. I'm just finding the right question.
Okay.
Okay, so Saad asks at what age one should start working on personal branding. Is there an age for it?
No, I don't think there's an age. I think there is you might want to wait until you're actually credible at something. I will say that. So for
Okay.
me,
Yeah.
I did not start my LinkedIn brand until I had a podcast and until I had 7 years of marketing experience under my belt and I felt like I actually had a perspective. So you want to wait until you actually have that expertise because you don't want to just you want to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. You actually want to have credibility. Otherwise, people will see right through you, and you want to be like an authentic leader in your field. And so, I would say there's no actually an age limit. You can be an expert at any age, but actually like have something to say and have the expertise before you start your personal brand.
All right. Valid point. Saif has an interesting question. So, how to resonate blogging experience with the corporate exposure we'll be getting in future? So, he is a food blogger, but
Hmm.
he's confused right now on how to merge it with his professional learning in the future.
What? Could
So,
you
I
say
think
that
what
a
he
little
means
louder?
is, yeah, I think what he means is he's a food blogger. He
Yeah.
wants to market himself that way, but he will also get into corporate sometime soon. So, does he need to have two brands simultaneously going on, or does he need to like merge them?
No, you can be a food blogger who's also an expert in marketing or an expert in finance. You can be whoever you want to be, and so the best part about a personal brand is that it's a transferable asset. So you actually never want to totally connect what you do to your corporation. So, for example, I work at Disney Streaming Services. It's an amazing brand. Am I posting all day about working at Disney Streaming Services? No, because I want my community to be a transferable asset that I can bring to me no matter what company I go to. And so, if your true passion is food blogging and that's where you want to go in the future, focus on that. Focus your corporation doesn't need to you don't need to mix and match like what sustains your lifestyle with your passion that you actually want to be known for. If you're great at food blogging and that's what you want to like promote yourself as, then I would go for it. The other angle that you could take is maybe do Instagram as your food blogging page, and that's where you focus since food is very visual. And then keep LinkedIn to being more professional for your corporation and focusing on whatever industry you're in your professional life. So that could be one angle. I think that you know you can choose which platforms you want and have an identity for each platform. But I would say never ever tie your identity to a corporation because jobs, especially nowadays, jobs come and go. And so the last thing you want to do is tie yourself to a corporation, then lose your job, and then you have no identity. You are your own brand. You are your own product. So you need to identify like what makes up me. And even on LinkedIn, like in the food blogging example, maybe once in a while you post about food blogging because you want to grow your community, and it doesn't really matter like what platform they're on. So it's just all about you, like who you are, and that can be multifaceted. It doesn't need to be one thing.
Thank you. So I have a very, very difficult question. I don't know if you have the answer for it. So Hassan asked how to make your dad, who has more than 30 years of experience, to get interested in LinkedIn. I don't know the answer for it.
How do you make your dad, who has more than 30 years of experience, interested in LinkedIn? I would say you can't
I
force
think,
anybody to do that. It's like it's really up to their goals, and maybe if he's on the older side, he might not understand the value of social media and he might not be able technically to get on there. But if you really believe in him, you can be that content curator for him and help him start his personal brand. And I would just show him examples of other people in his industry that are doing well on LinkedIn and that he could potentially get more opportunity. But at the end of the day, if you are personally not interested in getting more opportunities, then you don't need to build your personal brand. If he's not getting opportunities and he needs to build his network and he needs to get more clients, then maybe he'll be more easily convinced to start posting content, so that he can gain those opportunities.
okay, so Khalid has a question apart from job hunting. How can we use personal branding to generate business leads and new clients?
Yeah, so I would say that first you want to post valuable content so that people see you as an expert. When you're building your personal brand, I wouldn't ask for anything for 1 to 2 years. So I wouldn't right off the bat think, oh, I'm going to get new clients, right? And so in terms of getting new opportunities, it's about actually getting to know your network. And actually meeting them in real life sometimes. So a lot of the times, the closest connections I have, I've taken that relationship off LinkedIn. And who are you more likely to give a job to? Somebody that you just know online or somebody that you met in real life? So I would say try to, some of your high value connections, go out to coffee with them, like get to know them a little better so that you have more of a chance of getting that opportunity. So that would be my advice there. Just building real relationships, not just like posting content and commenting on their, like get to know people, get to know their jobs, have them know you and your strengths. And then opportunities will just come and they'll just come naturally.
Okay. So Ala, I know you've already talked about it, but there's a question which is being repeated again. And so how does one sit down and think about the USP or the personal brand? I know like you've talked about it, but if you can just repeat, I would say, or just make it easy for people, because people have this difficulty on in realizing what exactly is their brand and what exactly they're trying to sell. So I don't know how to explain to them. If you can just repeat. So
Yeah, so I think you need to know, like, you need to think about, I think before any of this starts, you need to have like good self esteem and you need to have confidence. And I think that's like goal number one. And so I would say write down every single thing that you're good at. Write down everything that you're good at and try to figure out of all these things that I'm good at, what could people find value in and what types of people would like to learn more about that. And I think like that's step number one. So it's writing everything down that you're good at. It could be big, small, and then figuring out, okay, out of all those things that I'm good at, what would people be interested in learning about? And then what kinds of people would be the ones that would be interested in learning about this? That's your audience, right? So I think that that's the first step is actually identifying like doing a self-assessment on the things that you're great at. Like for me, I'm great at marketing. I'm great at social media. I'm great at interviewing people. I'm great at networking. I'm great at, there's a million things that I'm great at. I'm great at studying and researching. So that's why I have a podcast, because I research about my guests and I uncover actionable insight. And I know people would be interested in that are entrepreneurs and young people in corporate. So that's my target audience, right? And so it's really about identifying what you're good at and then focusing on 2 or 3 things out of the things that you're good at and trying to get credibility in that space. So a lot of you might be young, and I think that might be why you're having trouble with this. You really need to start building your expertise. You need to start getting experiences to know what you're good at. And until you have those experiences, you won't really know what you're good at. But I'm sure that you guys can think of 1 or 2 things that you excel at that you could be able to teach people. And when it comes to building your community, it's all about teaching people, providing value. It's not about selling anything yet. It's really more about teaching people what you're good at and helping them. And once you help people, they'll trust you, and then you can sell to them.
it's a wonderful explanation. Thank you, Ala. So with that, the last question: how do you develop your own personal brand? So you've mentioned your personal brand. You've mentioned how you made that brand, how you want people to see you, but how do you develop it? Like,
Okay. I don't know how to answer this question. So, how do I develop my personal brand? I would say, again, you want to think about exactly what you want to talk about. Like, what are the things, like, what are the key pillars that I'm going to talk about? And focus in on those things. And don't go too much outside of that box, because you want people to, in a couple sentences, be able to describe who you are. And when they have an opportunity, to be able to know right away, oh, I have an opportunity for a podcast host, that's Hala. Or, oh, I have an opportunity for a marketing operations manager, oh, that's Hala, right? So you want people to quickly be able to identify what you do. And then I would say, you want to think about the content that you're going to post. So once you actually know what you want your personal brand to be, then you want to think about the actual content that aligns to your personal brand. And when you're first starting, I would suggest take just 1 month, 2 months to create content, because consistency is the most important part of all of this. And so, things come up, you get busy, you might not post for a week, but if you have content in the backlog that you can pull from, you'll always be consistent. So I would say take 1 to 2 months just to create content, to create graphics. There's great apps out there, Canva, Headliner, Photoshop, whatever it is. There's so many different apps out there. You don't need to be a graphic designer anymore. You can also go on Fiverr, and for $5 you can ask somebody to create a couple images for you. And so there's multiple ways for you to prepare your content. And so I would say get a backlog of content for like 1 to 2 months, work on that. And once you have a backlog, you'll be able to see everything together. Am I talking about all 3 pillars that I'm trying to get across? Is there a good variety? Because you want to experiment. You don't want to just keep posting the same text posts, same video posts. So is there a good variety of content so I can experiment and see what my followers like, right? And maybe you want to think about your audience. So what are the types of people that I'm going to target? Who am I going to proactively follow? What are the competitors in my space? What are they posting about on LinkedIn? Look at them. How can I emulate what they're doing and also grow a following? How can I follow their followers and get their following to follow me, right? Yeah. So think about your audience and who you're trying to target. And then I would say get started and be consistent. So you have your content, you have your backlog. You post 3 to 4 times a week. Let's say you notice that your text posts are getting traction. What do? You create more text posts. You lean into actually what's working, right? You notice that you have a certain following strategy in terms of proactive following that's working especially good. What do? You lean into that and you start doing more of that. And after a while, if you're consistent, it's just a snowball effect. People start finding you without you trying to find them. And that's the beauty of a personal brand, is that once you actually get it going, it starts to just happen more naturally.
Great. Once you get going, it starts to happen naturally, and that's the beauty of it. With that, I think that's the end of questions. I'll just summarize what we went through for the people who joined late. So we discussed what exactly is self-branding, why it is important, how can one just start on LinkedIn and make a brand that stands out, and we also discussed steps to make an exceptional brand out of one's LinkedIn profile. And Hala mentioned very, very important steps and a lot of information that thankfully we have recorded. So you can review, and you can, after this session, you can just go through it. So she mentioned the most important thing about having a personal statement in branding, knowing your audience, knowing what is your USP, what kind of posting you want to do. Is it 3 or 4 times a week initially, and then once every day, having a backlog, but most importantly, being consistent and knowing what is the brand that you want to make. You just don't want to be famous. You just want to be famous for what your brand is, and you have to know what your brand is, right? With that, Ala, I would like to thank you again for joining me all the way from New York. I'm sorry to take your time. It's around. I think I didn't push the time. I ended exactly 45 minutes. So thank you so much again. I hope we can meet again, because people really like you, and people are actually asking how they can connect with you. So I think LinkedIn.
Yeah, so I have a podcast that I would encourage all of you to go listen to. It's called Young and Profiting. I'm on Apple, Google, Spotify, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, YouTube. You can find me everywhere. I have really great content if you're interested in self-improvement, if you're interested in knowing how to grow your wealth and knowing how to be more productive, increasing your time management skills, being a leader, being an entrepreneur, growing a side hustle. We talk about all that content, and I interview the brightest minds in the world, people who are much smarter than me, but I do a ton of research and I get this valuable information out of them. So I would highly encourage you to go check out Young and Profiting Podcast. I'd love to have you guys as my new listeners. And then I'm also obviously on LinkedIn, so you can search for my name. It's Hala Taha, and I'm also on Instagram at Yap with Hala. So I'm looking forward to connect with all of you. Please send a friend request and I'll accept right away. Just let me know you saw me on YouTube today.
Okay, great. People, if you liked the session, please leave your feedback over here. Send a connection request to Hala. Let her know how her session was. I really enjoyed it. I've done a lot of sessions, but this session was to the point, precise, and Hala, it seemed like Hala knew everything what I'm going to ask her, so she knew exactly what she had to say, and that was brilliant. A lot of times people just go here and there, and
I don't like to ramble.
Yeah, but you were really precise, and I hope it helps everyone, and I hope to invite you again sometime soon. Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.